Good night, gentlemen. Yeah, I'm still here waiting. A thought came to mind. I saw someone walking their dog. They had two Doberman pinchers with them. And I had a flashback to my childhood where I went to visit, not to visit, I went to take something to a teacher that was a neighbor for my mother, who was also a librarian at the same school. So I went to take a package. I walked straight up to the house, rang the doorbell, gave it to the teacher. She invited me inside, gave me a red apple. Everyone who knows me knows I like red apples. There's another story around that, but I won't repeat it. But anyway, long story short, when I came outside, her 3 Doberman pinchers was standing at the gate. And I was fascinated. I didn't even know she had dogs. They didn't bark. They made no song. I didn't even hear them move. But they were at that gate. And I fell in love with them. Because these were some brilliant dogs. Now, I had a thing for Doberman German Shepherds. From, I think I was 5 years old, I was on a boat ride with my grandmother. And the gentleman threw a stick overboard. And the dog went, dived overboard to get the stick and brought it back. And I fell in love with them at 5. I came across Doberman pinchers when I was 10. And I'd watched a movie when I was going on to 11, where this gentleman had trained his dogs to rob banks. And I thought that was so brilliant. And that made me love Doberman pinchers. Now, I said that to say this, that took me back to another show that I had watched that came on the following week. Now, this is an example of how a bad example is a good example, where you can learn a lesson from something that is bad. Anyway, in this movie, this gentleman, let's call him A. A came out of jail, and he was staying with his friend B. Now, A went to jail for robbery, armed robbery, I can't remember. I was 11 then. Well, anyway, now B came up with a plan to do a robbery. And he wanted A to help him. So A asked him, had told him that this is the lesson that I apply to my life. He said, whenever you commit a crime, there are 50 things that can go wrong. If you cannot think of half of what can go wrong, don't commit the crime. So B decided, all right. He didn't think it through, so he came up with 25 things that can go wrong. So he wanted A to go over it, the gentleman who was in jail. So A said, no, before I even look over that, do you have an escape plan? So B realized, no, I don't. Listen, why we get your escape plan together. So B went to get his escape plan together. He came back, he brought it to A. So A asked B, do you have a backup escape plan? So now B is getting frustrated now. But he has no backup plan and no backup to the backup. So when B came back with the backup plan, A told him, before you even plan a crime, you're supposed to have a backup. You plan your escape route. Because what's the point in doing it if you can't get away? Oh, that's a bad thing, but you can apply the principle to life. You've got to plan, you've got to think, you must have backup plans. Because things go wrong. The best laid plans of mice and men sometimes do go awry. Jesus, the age Christ, I know that wholeheartedly. And that's why that movie, thank God I watched that movie and learned the lesson from that to apply it to my life. To plan ahead and to think ahead and to have my escape plan and have a backup escape plan. And Lao Tzu even said, a wise rat does not trust his life to one hole. So then I knew, even though it was a movie about crime, it still had life lessons. Because even Lao Tzu, who lived thousands of years before this movie came out, said the exact same thing. Anyway, B came back. So now A decided, okay, you got your escape plan, your backup escape plan. Let's look at 25 things that can go wrong. So A asked B, how are you going to deal with these 25 things that can go wrong? And so you don't waste time, have a backup plan to it. So he had to go think, all that can go wrong, what can he do to deal with it? What's the backup plan to it? Now once he did that and they went over it, they sat down and they had to think of all 50 things, another 25 things that can go wrong, come up with a way to deal with it and a backup plan. So B was getting frustrated by now. And by the time, after a while, he blew up. So A told him, hey, I sat in prison for 7 years. All I had was time to think. And what I'm telling you is what I learned. And he said something I'll never forget. And he said, before you commit a crime, check out to see how much time you have to serve. So if the crime you're about to commit, say you have to serve 10 years. And he told him, you have to invest half the time you're going to spend in prison planning the crime. I was like, oh, planning is very important. And you cannot rush your plan, and you must do your due diligence, and you must be thorough. I applied the genius of the criminal world to the real world, and that's what I do. I put in a lot of effort into planning and preparation. Now, excuse me, now by the time A and B work together, he helped A and B to work out all the 50 things that can go wrong, how to deal with them, a backup plan to deal with it. And then he told B, well, B asked A, can you join me? So they said, no, what you got to do is find out how do you avoid each of these 50 problems. If you can't do that, I can't help you. So now B felt betrayed. So he's like, all right, I'll get other people to help me. They said, all right, I'll come and visit you. I'll put something on your commissary. So he went, got his crew, and decided he's going to come back and ask, hey, all right, what can I do to prevent these 50 problems? And that stuck with me. After I think about all that can go wrong and find out how to prevent it and have a backup plan, mean how to deal with it and a backup plan to deal with it, I must also find out how to prevent these problems. And you know what I learned from that? Being a criminal is hard work. I might as well work for a living. I might as well take the lesson and apply it to real life. Because being a criminal is hard work for the way B does it. I mean A. Now B is an idiot. B is hot-tempered, no planning. He's a smash and grab criminal. Now A was a smash and grab criminal until he went to prison and he graduated and he was doing his thinking. However, what was going on, what B didn't know, A was planning the same crime, but he was doing it in prison. He had 7 years to think about the mistakes he made that landed him in prison and 7 years to plan. And he's trying to discourage B from hitting the same spot he was planning to hit because B was about smash and grab. And A was about going in there and getting as much as he can. So I learned that lesson, gentlemen. Do your homework. Do your homework. Nothing beats preparation, and you know and I know that proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. Catch you on the flip side, gents. Goodbye.